Can you all unmute? We can't, you're muted.
I can hear you, Andrea. Or Angela. Angela, this is Dave.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah, we're good. Okay, I'm seeing a thumbs up from Leslie. Excellent. All right. Well, we have as our guest today, Chief Patrick Foley, who'll be our speaker. And I think that he is our only guest this morning, but we've got a great turnout. And we will start this morning with Armand delivering our Rotary Minute.
Thank you, Susan. Every time I'm asked to do this, I always wonder if someone has already done the topic, I apologize if someone has. This morning, I'd like to read a little something about the 4 avenues of service. The term 4 avenues of service is frequently used in Rotarian literature and information. The avenues refer to the 4 elements of the objects of Rotary: club service, vocational service, community service, and international service. Although the avenues of service are not found in any formal part of the constitutional documents of Rotary, the concept has been accepted as a means to describe the primary areas of Rotary activity. Club service involves all activities necessary to make Rotarians, all activities necessary for Rotarians to perform to make their club functionally successful. Vocational service is a description of the opportunity each Rotarian has to represent dignity, unity in one's vocation to the other members of the club. And community service pertains to those activities which Rotarians undertake to improve the quality of life in their community, aged, handicapped, and others who look to Rotary as a source of hope for a better life. International service describes the many activities which Rotarians undertake to advance international understanding and goodwill and peace. International service projects are designed to meet humanitarian needs of people in many lands. When a Rotarian understands and travels down the 4 avenues of service, the objective of Rotary takes an even greater meaning. Thank you.
Thank you, Armand. I think I'm often impressed with the depth of Rotary and its history and how full the approach of Rotary is to its service around the world. And that's a great description of the scope and the way that Rotarians go about their service. For our inspiration this morning, I'm going to share a little excerpt from this book, Attitudes of Gratitude, that I think was a pretty good seller. So some of you may be familiar with it. And the book talks about the gifts of gratitude, the attitudes of gratitude, and the practices of gratitude. And I'm going to read one of the practices, which is to practice wonderment. Recently, I took my 1-year-old daughter to the zoo for her joy knew no bounds. Her little body wriggled, her eyes sparkled, and she brought out the biggest smile. The truth is, elephants are amazing creatures, and ice cream is just as delicious the 1,000th time as the first. But we adults have lost our wonderment, and so we can't appreciate elephants and ice cream as much. And children are our greatest teachers. Wonder is a natural state, one that of as we become numb to life. Since wonderment is the willingness to be surprised by life, and gratitude springs from wonderment. Surprise us with a glorious sunset, a luxurious back rub, a mysterious phone call, or the kindness of a stranger. The problem with adulthood is that we become jaded. Oh yes, another great sunset, another fabulous dinner, another birthday present. We can recapture our sense of wonderment at any moment. All it takes is to open our senses and let the world come into us anew. Try it for 1 minute. First, listen to the sounds around you. Perhaps an airplane is overhead. That certainly is relevant. Isn't it amazing that airplanes can fly? It doesn't seem possible. What kinds of scents are in the air? I can smell jasmine. Isn't it amazing that so many flowers have such distinct scents? Now turn to your sense of sight. Really notice what's around you. The grain in the wooden door, the black letters against the white page, the bright yellow bananas in the bowl. Isn't it amazing that you can see? Isn't it fascinating to wonder if everyone can see yellow the same way you do? Isn't it marvelous that you can have a banana even though they grow thousands of miles away? And we can touch wonder in every moment as we slow down and perceive the world around us, as if for the first time. And when we contact wonder, know thankfulness for the most ordinary, extraordinary things of life. Okay, we have some announcements. First off, Jeannie would like me to remind anyone who hasn't paid their dues to please get those to her for this year. Folding is in early. And then I just want to give Andy a moment to talk about the Williston Fire Department. Thank you project.
Amazing. Thank you all. I thought I sent a reminder email last night. Apparently it didn't go. So kudos to everybody who did remember. I am 8 short. One. Nope. I'm 6 short. Thank you. Oh, okay. Anyway, we're just a few short. So if you and 1 or 2 are accounted for. So I'm going to hold them 1 more week. And if they don't come in, I'll write them, which is fine. And then we're going to do a food basket. And so the delivery will probably be, say, a week from Thursday on my way out of the meeting. Thank you, everybody. If you had a name and you forgot it, don't be embarrassed. Just come up, because I know the names that are still unaccounted for. So again, please, no embarrassment. Just come up and grab a name, and I'll take the letter next week. Thank you.
Okay, and then I'd like to briefly put Angela on the spot, if she's willing, to
Sure.
maybe you just briefly tell us what took place on Sunday and how that went.
Actually, Leslie would be the one to share that information.
Ah, okay, Leslie.
Oh my goodness, I'm so happy to share this. Thank you for asking. We had a wonderful time in between the showers at Walmart collecting school supplies for children who have been impacted by the flood. And I cannot tell you, we have pictures that I'll send to you, Susan, for the website. And I have permission from the families. Great stories from people who had similar experiences, losing everything, either because of a fire or because of financial disaster. And every one of them came up with their kids, and it was amazing. We had 2 full car loads, and then I took some the next day, so it was great. And thank you, Armand, for helping. It was just the 2 of us, but it was a great experience. So thank you, Angela.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so
Yeah.
much for doing that, Armand.
If I may, I think it was a real treat to be there and see the generosity. I felt bad that there wasn't more Rotarians there to be part of that. It was humbling. Some of these people that brought baskets full of stuff out to donate. Glad I was there.
Great, yeah, thank you. Kudos to you guys for making the efforts. All right, any other quick announcements from anybody? Okay.
I do.
Oh,
Sorry. Just wanted to let people know that the PR committee We'll be attending 3 upcoming farmers markets, the first being tomorrow evening, actually from like
Oh,
2:30.
no.
I
I think-
think this is what she was going to say.
No, I'm sorry, Leslie, you stalled for a moment. If
Oh.
you could start over.
Sure. Okay, quickly, we will be attending 3 farmers markets coming up. The first being tomorrow evening in Richmond, and then the next 2 Tuesdays, the first at Isham's and the second at Adams. So I would love to have maybe 1 or 2 more people for tomorrow. I have currently Debbie, myself, and Doug for tomorrow in Richmond, and that's going to be from like 2:30 to 7. So I'd love to get a couple more people and each of us to do a 2-hour shift. Actually, I'll do all of it because I have all the stuff. So do I have any takers, please, for tomorrow night?
Richmond is a really great, if you have
Oh,
it.
yes, and they're gonna have a
and there-
bluegrass band there.
Lots
playing.
of folks and there's music and it's fun. Howard has raised his hand.
All right, Howard, thank you. Could we?
What am I doing? Smile and look pretty. Can I come at 3:30, Leslie? I just want to make sure. I need to come at 3:30, but then I can stay until it ends. Okay.
Okay. It would be wonderful if I could have 2 people to help me set up. We need to be set up by 3. I'm planning to be there by 2:30.
So Chris and Jude have raised their hands.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, that
Okay,
the canopy does require more people, so that is important. Yeah.
so are Chris and Jude coming at 2:30? Is that the plan?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Perfect. Thank you so much. And then I'll be talking to you all a little bit later about the Tuesdays. Thanks,
Yes.
Susan.
I'll tell you. Yeah. All right, and if anyone kind of thinks about it and realizes that, yes, they can do it, reach out to Leslie, please.
Thank you.
All right, Ted, I will turn it over.
Somebody to help me look pretty.
Okay.
So our speaker today is Williston Police Chief Foley. I'd like to tell you a little bit about him, and we've had him as a speaker here before. Before I do that, though, I just wanted to say how difficult his job is now, and how difficult law enforcement is now. Everything is connected to each other in life anyway, but that's particularly true when it comes to public service things like social work, law enforcement, etc. When I was doing public defender work, I represented a lot of drug dealers, and I was proud to do it because I was defending their constitutional rights. And by the way, as a footnote, the system almost always works. You only hear about it when it doesn't. But when I started, cocaine was a huge problem, and the way it would work, though, is that the cocaine dealers would bring their product to Vermont and set up distribution networks, and the distribution networks would then recruit other people, and they would end up dealing and selling cocaine. And one of the reasons, it's interesting to me that one of the reasons they did that was actually pure business, that there was a significant profit margin, but it wasn't astronomical. It was a lot of money, but it wasn't huge. The difficulty we have now in Vermont is that the street price for heroin in Vermont is 3 times the street price for heroin in New York City. Think of the economics of that. That means you can buy wholesale amounts of heroin in New York and come up to Vermont and triple your money. And so what that means is that it's so lucrative, you don't need to have a distribution network, right? Now, law enforcement used to arrest people at the lower levels and then work their way up and turn them and make them confidential informants. Or actually the CI, I was told, isn't confidential informant, it stands for cooperating individual, which I always like, because the police, when I was a public defender, the police never interrogated anybody, they only had conversations with them. But in any event, the economics of it have changed. So now people will come up to Vermont. They will couch surf, and they will sell out and make a huge profit and leave in about 2 or 3 days, maybe 4. And there's no chance to catch them. It's like whack-a-mole is what I've been told. Coupled with that, you have the economics of law enforcement, where we had, and the chief may touch on this, but we had full employment in the police department in the last 12 months. We finally had, for the first time in a long time, we had every police officer position filled. Then we started getting poached by other departments, and that meant that we started losing people, and now we're down again. So the chief has to deal with that, in addition to the drug issues, which lead to the shoplifting, and everything, as I said, is connected. We're really lucky to have Chief Foley. Chief Foley has been the chief in Williston for 5 years, actually coming, I think, 6, 2017. Long career in law enforcement. He was the police chief in Douglas, Massachusetts for 22 years. He's been the vice president of the International Association of Chiefs of Police. He was the chief of police in Windsor, Vermont. And before that, he was a special agent for the Drug Enforcement Agency for 3 years in New York City. And again, I always like the fact that they're not agents, they're special agents. Anyway, so Chief Foley has done an incredible job of offering leadership. And the last thing I'd say to emphasize that is there's a deputy sheriff who guards the door at the Costello Courthouse in Burlington. There are a lot of deputy sheriffs there, but this guy, I love talking to him because he was kind of like the Oracle at Delphi. He knew everything and he never left his position. He never went inside the building, but people would go by and talk to him. Like the Oracle at Delphi, people would come to Delphi and ask advice, and the Delphi would give the advice because everybody came to the Delphi, and so had a massive amount of information. So this guy knew everything, and it was very knowledgeable and wise, actually. And he told me early on, and emphasized it a couple of times, that the only place he would want to work besides where he was the Williston Police Department, because of our chief, because of Chief Foley. Chief Foley has offered leadership, he's offered innovation, and he's doing a very difficult job. He's also pulling a lot of hours. So I won't delay him any longer. So I give you Chief Foley.
Thank you, Ted. Thank you for that warm welcoming and all that. Thank you again for allowing me to come back. I got 3 phases of this discussion. This one, this chat, and won't be long, but I'll start off with recruitment. As Ted was saying, is that a year ago this month, we were actually at full strength. First time in many, many years. Our sworn strength is 17, to include myself, a lieutenant, 4 patrol sergeants, a K9, which is a comfort dog, and you met Duke and his handler, Matt Cohen, and then the patrol officers, and plus we're supplemented by outreach personnel through the Harwood Center. Fast forward, today we have 4 positions down. We have a 5th position, which is an officer that was assaulted back in May, affecting arrest of a person that was supposed to be on house arrest 24 hours a day up in Swanton, and he happened to be in our community shoplifting, and the officer got assaulted, got knocked out. So he's still out. He's back to work right now, doing 6 hours, 3 days a week. Hopefully we can get him back within the next month and all that. So being shorthanded, and there's the recruitment is very dry. I think the poaching is all over. As Ted mentioned, we lost people to Montpelier, one down to Rutland, who was involved in that tragic fatality. She was injured, but she survived. And then 2 officers went back to Shelburne. And it's just like a sports team trying to offer the best contracts, the more money, the trinkets and all that. So as Ted was saying, I try to find different ways of recruiting. I'm just going to pass these around. These are our recruitment. So you see what we're trying to do, be a little creative. For the last 3 weeks, myself and my administrative assistant have been advertising throughout New England. Not just in Vermont. What we've done is we hit communities with bordering states of Massachusetts, New Hampshire, New York. I'm also down in Rhode Island. Where I was down once, a couple weeks ago, and then they have a local newspaper called the Valley Breeze, and I was looking at it because it goes through like 6 communities in Rhode Island, the Blackstone Valley. And front page was an advertisement by a PD, their front page. And I said, I got to try it. And we got one applicant out of that area. We got one from Texas, but it's tough getting qualified candidates. So that's what we're doing this coming week. We're looking at different areas, again, trying to advertise in the local newspapers. We've been trying to hit the weekend edition, especially Sunday. Looking at the circulation, Sunday seems like the number one paper that is read throughout New England. We're advertising in the New England Association of Chiefs of Police, which represents 6 states, and all their email people on that webpage gets the advertisement. Same thing with Mass Chiefs. I got a lot of comments on our poster, but I didn't get any applicants out of it. So we're doing, and I've had conversations with town manager Wells about like what is the next step we need to do to try to sweeten the pot and all that. So again, we'll finish doing the advertisement through the newspapers, and then we'll see what we'll go from there. The biggest hurdle is that it's all right if we get somebody from within the state of Vermont who's been maybe certified, and you don't have to go through a process of getting them recertified. But when you have people from out in Vermont as employed, but my 3rd time back as a police officer in Vermont, it took me almost 3 years to get all my classes I need to maintain my certification. So the academy looks at training. We had an officer that went to a municipal academy in New York State. She worked 6 years on the road in a part-time capacity, and she still had to go back to a full-time academy because the hours didn't match up. So again, it's really tiresome. So we're trying to get the academy to look at a different way of recruiting and do waivers. We only offer 2 classes a year here in the state for full-time training. So it's a tough haul, but I have a Chiefs meeting, Vermont Chiefs meeting when I leave here, and that'll be part of the discussion where we are in that phase. When this was all happening, when we got to full strength, and when I see Rick McGuire here, the former town manager, when we were discussing about adding personnel to the PD, we all talked about doing a study. And I wanted to make sure I was at full strength before, because then I could see what my strengths were, what my weaknesses were, what else do we need. So we got the full strength. We engaged in a contract with JW Consultant, which is the former colonel of the Vermont State Police, James Baker. He started the process in March and April. Staff is working with him and myself to get information. And what Colonel Baker's looking at, we're looking at race data, calls for services, organizational charts. Look at the past employees of the PD, past chiefs, talk to them. Look at the growth of the town. What Colonel Baker wants to do is look at the town currently. What do we need right now to build my PD up and the PD up? And then let's look at 5 years. What are we planning at 5 years? We're looking at 10 years. So when I retire here, whoever takes over my position will have a game plan, because the town is growing. You're seeing, with the build out. We want to stay current with the build out. We want to be ready to address the growth and have a plan A, B, and C there. So that's what we're doing. We hopefully will have it completed by by October or November, definitely by November when we get close to budget. So if we need to add personnel, we can present that during my budget presentation. And if we need more personnel, that allows us to apply for grants through the COPS office. What you need to do before you can ask for the grants to pay for the officers over 3 years, you got to have the authorization from the select board that you are able to hire and all that. So that's one of the avenues we're looking at. But before we get that far, I need personnel. I need 4 positions filled as we progress along. So we'll continue doing that. And the final thing I want to touch on is crime here in the community. I'm currently working with the Free Press. They've reached out to me to look at our retail theft. That's our number one problem here in Williston. You know, we lost two businesses with the Best Buy, Bed Bath and Beyond and Christmas Tree Shop. They've closed. But you know, it's daily. It begins anywhere between 10 and 11 o'clock in the morning, and we run anywhere from 9 to 10 o'clock with calls. Our calls as of today are 50% higher than last year this time. And we're 4 personnel short. This past Monday, I ran patrol with the officers and I took 6 calls myself. So in addition to all my duties I'm doing here as the police chief, I'm covering him because technically I'm the senior person on the shift. So I'm the backup and all that. So that is one of the things that, you know, is tough. The last time I talked to you and I mentioned about the cite and release, that is still a common thing. And the criminals that we're dealing with, it's a joke to them. When we talk to them and say, we got a warrant for you and all that, he goes, yeah, that's cite and release. I don't have to go to court. They'll just cite me. And I said, well, it's before 3 o'clock. You probably end up going to court. And then you bring them to court, you spend, you know, 4 to 5 hours with them because the sheriff's department is short. So we have to guard them. They go before the judge and they're probably out of the building before we get out of it because they're cited to come back at a different time. But some of the numbers we're looking at, and it's amazing. In addition to being our calls 50%. The last 3 years, I'll go the last four years, is that back in 2020, we had 131 retail thefts in this town, which is not bad. You know, you figure 365, that's one every couple of days. In 2021, it went up to 175. You know, you figure, you know, the pandemic is changing, more people going out and all that. Last year we went 223. And as of July of this year, we're at 250 already. So you figure double that, we could be close to 500 retail thefts. What's driving this? It's a combination of a lot of things. Drugs, mental health, homelessness. The biggest thing is the drugs and the mental health. The pandemic, the treatment facilities all shut down. It escalated, you know, drug use and all that. And like Ted was talking about, cocaine, that's not the drug of choice. Methods come back big time. Heroin with fentanyl in it. Xylazine, which is a tranquilizer that Narcan does not work on. It's just, you know, we're seeing South Burlington this week has been getting hit really big time with stolen vehicles. We thought Burlington was a daily thing. It seems like the last 3 days they've had numerous stolen vehicles. We recovered one last night at Home Depot, you know, within 20 minutes of being stolen. So we lucked out, but we didn't get anybody in the vehicle. They seemed like they abandoned it in the building, knew the cops would come and all that. But again, it can't be just the law enforcement end of trying to solve this problem. You know, we need, you know, more facilities available to deal with the mental health issue. We got to hold the people. Don't blame it on something. Have a plan to correct it. You know, how do we treat, you know, drug addiction? How do we treat mental health? You know, I had a judge. I was talking to a reporter the other day. Is that down in Massachusetts? I had a Judge Destroyan in the Uxbridge court, and he had 3 strike rules. He'll entertain you 2 times if you come before him, but on the 3rd time, you're going to go away for 30 days, mandatory 30 days. And it seems like it kind of got the message across that, you know, you can break the law, but you know, enough is enough. So again, you know, the troops, my officers, you know, the difficult part is trying to maintain patrols on the street because it takes them an average of 2 to 3 hours to do paperwork. So if you catch, you know, 3 or 4 shoplifting cases, and again, we run right now is we have myself, we have a sergeant and a patrolman in the morning. So usually the patrolman gets the case because he's the rookie, and then the sergeant gets the case, and then if it's really bad, I try to do the non-investigative, like the burglar alarms, you know, maybe a minor crash, a medical call that I go out and assist the fire department. I get there first, you know, suspicious vehicle and all that, but for me to start doing paperwork at 2 or 3 hours of doing arrests. So, but if they is Thursday, so they had, I think, 2 shoplifting yesterday. So he's got to do his paperwork. So he's off the road. So the sergeant and I pick up the calls. So we're trying to make sure we have enough people, and at noontime, we bring another officer in that we can do overlapping. You know, when we're at full strength, we had a sergeant plus 2 patrolmen on every shift. We had the K9 officer during the day. We had swing shifts going to 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. So we had plenty of people, and we started looking at, you know, new ideas out there, like, you know, traffic control and dedicated patrols and all that. But, you know, we need to get the bodies and all that. In closing, I just wanted to talk about, you know, a statement I saw this morning, because I read a lot of newspapers when I'm in my office. This was from former commissioner, one of the people that commented. I follow Lincoln every day. And this came up, which I think it hits the nail on the head, is that if when people commit crimes, the consequences are minimal, and those same people continue to commit crimes, why the hell do some people think by reducing the minimal consequences, they will be stop committing crimes? This mindset only incentivizes more criminal activity, which hits it right on the head. I'm open to questions. I just want to thank you again to allow me to address the members of Rotary. That right here in the front.
Question. I'm wondering if you're also using social media to.
We do. We do that a lot on our.
Because I don't think the younger generation actually buys newspapers.
I know. We're doing it on our Facebook page and our Twitter page and our webpage for the PD. And again, we get a lot of hits on it. The problem is that you get the hits, but you don't get the applications. So.
I'm curious. So it seems like there's a variety of inefficiencies that we battle against, whether it's hanging out 4 or 5 hours in court, spending 2, 3 hours on papers. So I've got a Kate in my office who knows a lot about efficiencies and how to utilize technology to make things a lot more seamless and quick than I ever imagined. Is there any capacity for anything like that to help you guys out? Because that's a lot of time.
Well, again, if we have a technology where we can just input information, it works. But because we have rules through the FBI and the state on who can use the data, it's limited. And it's the forms we have to fill out that for the courts and all that. So that's one of the things. But you know, we're pretty much streamlined where, you know, the thing is that we're dealing with the same people pretty much all the time. If I could probably count 10 names on my hand that we deal with every week. So they're already in the system. So all you have to do is just put their first name in and it pops up, and then you write your affidavit, and we save all the affidavits because they're pretty much with the same person, the same businesses, Walmart or REI or Hannaford's and all that. So and the other thing is that they don't care anymore. You know, it was a Tuesday, Monday. We had somebody with a shopping cart at Home Depot and had a mask on, and he filled up the shopping cart with tools and, you know, and out the door he went. And by the time, you know, we got up there, he was already gone. So
as far as the businesses go, I was talking to somebody that works at Hannaford's, and she's like, they will literally just watch people walk out of the store with a cart full of food without paying, and they're not allowed to approach the people. They're not allowed to go out to the parking lot. They're not allowed to do that.
That's a common theme. What they're doing right now is that depending what type of security you have, if you just have, you know, a security person or loss prevention, you know, but a lot of these businesses like Home Depot, Walmart, REI, they bring corporate up from like Massachusetts or New York. They can go hands-on with the person, but a normal employee are not. So the calls we're getting are from people in the parking lot, civilians that see somebody running out there. They'll get me the plate number, but again, you're running 2 people on the shift, and they might be tired on another call. You know, so we've been trying to plant people in the parking lots on given days. And so that helps us. We kind of know when things, the playing field starts to get active, and we try to put somebody in that neighborhood and all that. And like in the afternoon, when I leave the office, I ride around for an hour, 2 hours through every parking lot, so I can be close to it in the system. So, ma'am?
I have a question. I did see 2 of your officers arresting a woman in Shaw's parking lot the other day, and I thought, oh geez. Yeah, I didn't figure that these people were right around me, but obviously they are. what are the things that they're stealing and what are they doing? I assume they want to sell it. So you're not having people that are stealing things that they actually need.
No, they
like
don't need it.
food and whatever.
They don't, they're just selling it. And if, a lot of them have their own marketplace on Facebook. They'll steal something.
Oh.
Yeah, they'll steal something and they'll be sitting in a car and they go up online and show you what it is. Go down to City Hall Park in Burlington. I have people that know these players and they'll send us, hey, have the police come down and we believe this thing is stolen. They got a DeWatt, cooler, or, the big thing now is venti coolers.
Is what?
Venti, the name brand of coolers.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, that's the big Yeti. I mean, so yeah. So that's the big thing being stolen now.
My other question I had is, and I don't think it happened here, but we hear so much of it about, especially with minorities being stopped for various reasons. Usually they're not big reasons anyway. What is the idea of how to de-escalate that violence that towards these people? Because sometimes I hear them say that they don't even know why they were stopped. Is there kind of I don't know whether it should be a more serious offense that brings a whole bunch of people, at one time. Obviously we're short on that, and hopefully we don't have that sort of thing. By the way, that your department does a spectacular job.
Thank you.
Really
Thank you.
good job, and we know it's hard.
We're trained in that, every year we have to have training on fair and impartial policing. We watch our data, and Mr. Wells can tell you, and Mr. McGuire, that we've looked at the data and checked all the calls and all that, and have presented, reports out there that, when I was hired, one of the things they asked me to do for my presentation is go back to the 2014 data. And the best thing that the PD did here in Williston is include the reason for the stops. We don't do a lot of traffic stops. We just don't have the bodies, and again, unless it's a blatant violation, but that's what we do. And, so the state tells us the training that we need in that frame. So we do that. On this side, ma'am, in the back.
Thank you, Chief. Questions, but I'll only ask one. I'm intrigued with the comments you made about the certification difficulties from another state to this state, because certainly in many professions, as some people around here know, like the nurses and other teaching, we've tried to nationalize certification processes. And is it a problem within the state Secretary of State rules, or is it a problem within the state police academy rules? And could something be done about that to minimize the problems within that?
We've had, it's through the Criminal Justice Council. And so they're the ones that govern training and all that with the police academy. So we've had numerous discussions with them about trying to standardize, the rules. Again, and it doesn't happen overnight, and so in addition to all the other duties they have, and the mandates that they have to implement. So again, the discussion has started. And again, hopefully, that's why when I go to my meeting with the chiefs later on this morning, in another hour, that'll probably be one of the topics where we are in that process. But just over this.
With the site release versus like the repeat offenders, would that increase in the number of people arrested or cited as far as the retail theft goes? How would that change over time if those repeat offenders weren't included in the data?
Well, again, we'd have to see. I think you got to send a message that this is important, that this is a crime, and we want them to be responsible. And if they have a malady, drug addiction, mental health, or whatever it is, we got to be able to treat it. Because if you cite and release them, you're not treating it. You're continuing and saying, don't worry about it. We'll see you next time you come.
I used to do the store protection for Ross Restaurant List, which is like TJ Maxx for those of you who haven't been to a Ross. And I wasn't allowed to chase people into the parking lot, even go outside, call the police or anything. And that was down in South Florida, where it happened all the time. And we had, people online, you can go and buy the hard tag release stuff, so you can just get high dollar items. So the reason companies do that, it's a litigation thing.
Yeah.
They've decided that it's not worth Doug getting shot in the parking lot for that $500 worth of stuff.
True.
That the whatever my family would get isn't worth stopping these people.
That's what the same thing up here.
Yeah.
And we've had loss prevention have knives pulled on them. So again, it makes it a lot more difficult, because if we need somebody to say, we need the witness, because a lot of times the businesses can't tell you whether or not it was purchased or not purchased. So, sir?
First of all, I was guilty as charged.
Okay. Cite and release?
Yeah. It's in a Walmart parking, I know. So I wanted to just get back to the notion of inefficiencies and such. How much of this would you say is at a local and state level as opposed to a federal level? And if you had your druthers, if you could do whatever you wanted, do you see things you would change? Or is it sort of?
Well, the change is that it's accountability. We need them to understand that they're doing something wrong. They're committing a crime, and they're going to be held responsible for that. And it's frustrating for my rank and file to deal with the same person. A couple of weeks ago, Channel 3 did a story on because the business people in South Burlington were complaining about the way people being treated in the criminal justice cite and release and all that. And they were showing a picture of the lady running out of the Ace Hardware with a Yenti cooler. We dealt with her an hour earlier in our town shoplifting. So again, the consequences, you got to have some, again, where are you going to put these people? And until everybody works together for common good.
I was thinking more along the lines of so much of this paperwork that seems to be a tremendous burden.
Yeah, well, that's society. That's everybody wants to modernize and all that, but everybody wants the paper copies. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So, sir?
We have two people at home on Zoom.
Hi.
Hi there.
Hi, thank you, Chief Foley. You mentioned, I have two questions, actually. You mentioned that drugs and mental health seem to be the two main drivers of the spike in retail theft. So I was wondering what kind of upstream interventions or services you've identified as needs in our community and our state. And my second question is, when in the area of responsibility and accountability, as you know, that is the point of restorative justice. So I wondered if you could say a little bit about your thoughts on restorative justice and how that works in our community.
Well, we have restorative justice in our community. We house the community justice center in our building. So that's a plus for us. It's just that the workload, a lot of these people, if we refer them to CJCs, don't have the means of getting there. Some of them don't have ways of being contacted. We're in an area of the community that has no bus routes. So how do they get there to the building? So we are working on that. We had reached out to Maple Tree Place, and they agreed to put us an office in there for CJC to meet clients off the bus routes. That fell apart because of negotiations going on in that complex. But it does. I believe it works with somebody is hard on their luck, maybe somebody who just lost their job, some tragedy, they need to do something and they commit a crime. And for somebody who's first time offender, I think it works great. But people with multiple offenses, I think, we're kind of defeating the purpose.
So, and maybe that goes to my first question. What do you see as upstream interventions that might be needed, or services that are missing, community services that are missing when we try to look at root causes rather than, you know, and just when we look at root causes, and you mentioned drugs and mental health. So I'm wondering what kinds of things you've identified that are missing on a state or community level.
Well, I think we need some outreach there in the sense of mental health counseling within the community, some drug counseling. The thing is that what services are they getting if they're cite and release? You know, if you look at their conditions of release, it's checked off 1, 2, and 3. Number 4 is not checked off that says you cannot commit a crime. You know, there's nothing in that saying that you need to seek mental health counseling, you need to seek drug counseling. So that's a concern for us. You know, when we stop somebody and arrest somebody and look at their conditions of release. So you're putting the burden back on law enforcement in any community here in Vermont to deal with these people day in and day out. And there's, you know, where's the next step? You know, before the pandemic, all these people were in drug treatment, mental health counseling, and then we shut the door on them and didn't have a plan B. How do we deal with them?
Right. So it sounds like maybe you're suggesting if there were better.
One more question.
Sure.
Sorry. A little time delay on the sound. Sorry about that.
Dave?
One comment is that I really appreciate what you do, Chief Foley, and what the police department is faced with these days. When we lived in Burlington, we loved going to LL Bean downtown, and I know one of the motivations for them to go to move out to Williston was the increase in theft. I assume that their numbers are even worse than what's going on out there. But I guess there's got to be a concern in the neighborhood, in the community, that this increase in theft will have a negative impact on the willingness of businesses to remain in Williston. My other question is that given the fact that many of us in Rotary are retired and might be looking for supplemental income, aren't you a little concerned that you might be giving us ideas?
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Speaking with us and answering our many questions. Thank you for your service. And Ted, do you want to explain how?
Make a comment. Well,
I'm sorry.
Just a brief comment. Chief mentioned the study we're doing with Colonel Baker, and we're going to be standing up some community focus groups as part of that study. So I'm tasked with helping to get some of those groups together for probably September. So it was a good time. If there's members of Rotary that might be interested in participating in those focus groups, talking about future policing services in the community, please reach out to me, and I can add your name to a potential list to organize these.
Great.
So,
thank you.
Chief, as a thank you in your name, we make a contribution to the Williston Central Mentoring Program in your honor. So we're going to be doing that. So thank you. Thank you for your speech, and thank you for everything you do. The other obligation that you have is to pick the winning tickets.
I brought my glasses.
Stirring them up. Okay, there you go. Wait. We have wait.
Going right on top.
Yeah.
Shake them up.
All right. Thoroughly stirring those late arrivers in. Okay. All right, the last 3 digits.
The last 3 digits is 490.
Oh, yeah.
It didn't even matter.
Who's a leader?
Who's after me?
Oh, okay. All right. So, before I turn it over to Marty,